Broncos Television presents Broncos Beat with Alexis Perry.
Welcome back for another edition of Broncos Beat, another at-home edition, of course. And today we're going to shift our attention from free agency to the rapidly approaching NFL draft. Joining me here today, we have Cecil Lammey from 104.3 The Fan, Ryan Edwards from Broncos Country Tonight on KOA Radio, and of course, James Palmer from NFL Network. Guys, how's everybody doing? Cecil?
Yeah, I'm fantastic, man. Getting by and waiting for the draft.
How about you, Ryan?
The weather. Yeah, I'm enjoying the weather warming up a little bit. Just was out for another walk, I think my fifth of today, out there with the family, so it was great.
Yeah, I don't know why I openly admitted to these guys before we started the show that I've been playing around the world against myself to stay in physical tip-top shape, but I'm going to jump on and do that a little later today.
I know, I definitely need to get a workout in. But like we all know, the NFL draft is coming up in about 2.5 weeks because the league announced that they will not be postponing the draft. And I feel like there have been so many NFL reporters who have been really vocal about the fact that the league isn't pushing the draft back. It could happen in May, it could happen in June, but that is not going to happen. It's still going to take place in April. So really quick, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the fact that the league isn't postponing it. James, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people within the league also that believe it should be pushed back, but obviously one man has the ultimate say about when it's going to be. But the more people I talk to with teams around the league, their sentiments now that it's getting closer have changed a little bit. It was, God, I don't know why we're doing this now. And now as we're getting closer, more people I talk to in organizations are now saying, you know what, I think having it continue and be at this time is completely fine. And their opinion actually has changed a little bit and swung back in the other way in recent days.
Well, as you heard John Elway say, their scouts are already working on next season. So if any good organization has done most of the work that they ultimately need to at this point. So, yeah, there was a little bit of that backlash early on, it seemed like, from some GMs in front office. But in the end, I think once they settle in and realize once we can get over the logistics of this thing, that it's going to work out just fine.
Well, and that's really where it hurts is next year's draft because you're not there at pro days catching up with the, assistant athletic directors and the equipment guys finding about the next crop of talent. This year's draft's fine. The work is done. So let's keep it as scheduled.
Are there any challenges that you guys can see front offices facing doing a virtual war room from home?
I think the communication part, right? I mean, that seems like the obvious one. You're thinking about where guys are going to be all different parts and maybe not being able to be in the same room with each other. If you're down to the wire on things and maybe a guy slipping in the draft and you want to make a quick move, you got to huddle everybody together somehow. I think, for me at least, Cecil, that's the biggest one.
Yeah, just make sure everyone has good internet. Rock and roll. Let's do it.
Well, guys, really the biggest thing that I have heard, Alexis, sorry to cut you off there for a minute, but what most teams are having the issue with is how are they going to come up with those time periods that Ryan's talking about? And that's why there has been discussions within the league that teams might have the opportunity to extend maybe during their picking time by a couple of minutes. And that's a discussion that's happening within the league, just in case they go through one of those issues with internet or the communication within their groups. It's hearing more and more like guys like John Elway are going to be operating this draft from the comfort of their home. I know the Chiefs have talked about doing it out of a hotel and putting guys in different rooms just so you're kind of in the same vicinity. Everybody is looking at different aspects, but the closer we get to this and the more I'm hearing in the last couple of days, it is that these guys are going to most likely be operating from their homes.
Okay, let's go ahead and move along to the draft itself. Like we all know, the Broncos hold the 15th overall pick. So I think for this exercise, let's pretend like John Elway and company, they are not going to move around. They're going to use their 15th overall pick, and they're going to take into consideration Pat Shurmur's offense. What do you guys think that they will prioritize more, an offensive lineman or a wide receiver?
I think the wide receiver talk is a little bit passé. I mean, we've been talking about it since, December, right? And it just seems as we get closer, that wide receiver may be a little bit less likely. Part of it is to do with the offensive line talent and how quickly some of these tackles could go. When Ezra Cleveland from Boise State, who I have as a late second, is getting first-round buzz, you're the Broncos, you better pay attention to that. I know that they are. And then the teams in front of them, the teams that may leapfrog them for that wide receiver talent, you could get to 15 and have the big three, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, and Henry Ruggs, already gone. So you better be ready. You better be fluid.
Yeah, you got to have a conversation about trading up if you really want one of those top 3 wide receivers, because right in front of you, the Jets, the Raiders, the 49ers, they all could be in the market for wide receivers. So you ultimately need to be talking about getting up to at least 10 where the Cleveland Browns sit. But in this exercise, yeah, I mean, the thing about it is you heard Vic Fangio talk about best player available. Now, we sometimes say that tongue in cheek. I think the Broncos are really set up in a great way to look at the best player available. They have to make a decision, though. Are they willing to redshirt a tackle that they take there at the 15th overall spot? Because my understanding is they really do want to see if Garrett Bowles and Juwan James can build something there.
And Ryan touched on an interesting point with redshirting. And let's talk about it at the other position, because the more people I talk to is, if you're taking one of these wide receivers and you now have this offseason that has been taken away, these wide receivers making an immediate impact in your offense is something that a lot of people around the league just don't think is going to happen, no matter how talented this group is, because it's such a difficult position to transition into the NFL. And then you don't have this offseason to learn the playbook, to work with your quarterback. Picking a wide receiver, and we know how dynamic this group is, it's going to be more of a long-term pick than what they're going to make in your first season with them, which is an interesting take from a lot of people, that they don't think that these guys are going to really wow the world in their first season. It makes sense with what we're going through.
Well, and in Pat Shurmur's offense, will a guy be able to really wow the world, given the fact that the second wide receiver in his 3-vert system usually only catches about, 40 passes a year? So can we really place that much value on a wide receiver at 15th overall when he's probably not going to have as many catches as somebody like Courtland Sutton or even Noah Fant will?
If you needed a number 1 wide receiver, yeah, a wide receiver at 15 makes a lot of sense. Moving up for one of those top 3 receivers makes a lot of sense. But you have Courtland Sutton, who I think has just shown the tip of the iceberg. What the guy did last year with 3 different quarterbacks, and only one of them was a good one, and Drew Lock, carry that forward to this season. And then looking at Shurmur's offense, I don't care if it was with the Rams or the Browns or the Vikings or the Giants, second receiver doesn't really do a whole lot. So again, where's the best value for this team at a position of need? It might be offensive line.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing. You got to think about this thing 3-dimensionally too, because by next year at your offensive tackle position, you're going to have some major question marks, assuming Garrett Bowles doesn't get a contract up. And then, of course, Juwan James, there's some options there. So, yeah, you need to be thinking about this, not just about what we need this year, think about next year as well.
Yeah, I'm best available, like what Ryan said also earlier. I think that's exactly what you go with. And I look at the Bradley Chubb pick, and if somebody falls to you, and I think they're going to get a guy that's higher than 15 on their board sitting there available, and I think you go and get that best available player. I think that's the biggest aspect. I do think we're not really talking about Noah Fant enough. This is a guy that Pat Shurmur absolutely loved coming out in the draft, and now he gets to work with him that he's brought here to Denver. I think that's the other aspect that takes away a little bit of your love of really going out there and selling the world to try to get one of these receivers.
Well, coming up after the break, I'm going to ask this group of experts if we might see some first-round movement from the Denver Broncos. Don't go anywhere. Hey there, and welcome back to Broncos Beat. This time around, we're going to talk a little bit about if the Broncos might move up, move back in the first round of the NFL draft. So let's start with kind of moving up and moving back. Last year was a great example of how successful the Broncos can be if they trade back in that first round to get more picks. But do you guys see them doing that again this year?
Well, I mean, trading back makes a ton of sense, too, especially if you view, as Vic Fangio put it, you have multiple needs on both sides of the ball. So let's just keep it on the offense for a minute here and say, okay, if you trade back, maybe you put yourself in position to take Denzel Mims. Maybe Ezra Cleveland, as Cecil mentioned, is available somewhere around there. You could also get Cesar Ruiz, the top center, because we know at this point they definitely need some interior offensive line help. So, yeah, in my opinion, trading back makes all the sense in the world. But again, you stay at 15, you can get some really good players. But yeah, for me, I just love the value there, much more late first, second, and into the third.
Well, and that's where everyone that thinks this team is going to go wide receiver at 15, there's one team remaining. Now, before free agency opened, I'd heard that the Bills, the Saints, and the Eagles were considering leapfrogging the Broncos because everyone knows the Broncos were going to take a wide receiver at 15. Well, Bills got Diggs, Saints got Emmanuel Sanders. That leaves the Eagles. So if you move back, you're the Denver Broncos, find a trade partner. I think that's the best bet. You move up for a quarterback. They're not going to do that. They have Drew Lock. So moving back, if they move at all, is probably the plan.
I think, Cecil, when you look at your board and when you're sitting there at 15, you see where everybody's slated, and then you go, you know what? I think we should move back. And me, personally, I love when teams move back. You mentioned Philly being a team. Howie Roseman's one of the more aggressive general managers in the NFL, and they have a desperate need at wide receiver as they were unable to land DeAndre Hopkins in a trade. So he's a guy that definitely wants to try to come up. I think there's a couple of teams that like to shuffle that are right around the Broncos that allow you the ability to move around. The one team that really jumps out at me is the 49ers because of the relationship that the Broncos have with John Lynch and with the 49ers and them having 2 picks in the first round. If they'd like to come up and get somebody and take that later pick and move, I think that's a team to keep an eye on. And obviously they're picking just 2 picks ahead of the Broncos. There's going to be a lot of conversations between those two sides right before pick 13's rolling in about what we're both doing and what we're looking to do. That's one team that jumps out at me that if you're looking to move back, maybe they want to come up with that pick, that later pick in the first round.
Are there any other potential trade partners that you guys can see? You mentioned Philly, you mentioned San Francisco. Anybody else?
I like the Cleveland Browns at 10. I mean, as they're trading up, right? I mean, there's definitely opportunity there. I think Arizona could be kind of interesting if you're trading up. They are the team that doesn't need a wide receiver now. They need an offensive tackle, and they may see a run on quarterbacks where they think they can get an offensive tackle. I think the teams trading where you could trade up are a little more interesting. Trading back is, again, kind of just finding the right value, the right balance of value.
Yeah, I want to know what the Dolphins are doing, right? If we look at the teams in the first round that have a collection of first-round picks, the first one that springs to mind is Miami. So if you're trading back and they've got those 2 picks behind you from Houston and Pittsburgh respectively, then that's a consideration. I think the Broncos should be open and be fluid with their movement, and moving back, maybe a team like Miami would make sense. But you always need 2 to tango. You love those dance partners like Howie Roseman, John Lynch. Of course, their relationships with John Elway come through because John Elway's a football guy, first and foremost, but he's also in the relationship business. And that's where these relationships can come through.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Seattle.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I don't need
No, I want to hear about Seattle, actually.
Just keep an eye on Seattle. They love to move out of the back end of the first round. And if Denver wants to try to slide in to the back end of the first round, Seattle is always open to moving back. It's something they do regular. Keep an eye on them.
Okay, let's say the Broncos take a player at 15. They have 4 picks in the next 2 rounds. So could you guys see them moving back into the first round, given the fact that we know how important those 5th-year option players really are?
Yeah, and I say if they got wide receiver and offensive line on the board, right, and that's what we're talking about in today's show, you could get them both in the first round. You got 5 picks in the first 3 rounds. Do you need to take 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, or could you take 4 and move around and move back into the first round and grab an Ezra Cleveland or one of those offensive linemen? I'm part of the Lucas Nang gang from TCU. So, give me an offensive lineman or wide receiver both in the first round, both with 5th-year options. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm a big Lucas Niang fan. Nice call. That fan, he's a good player. But yeah, I mean, listen, you're right. I mean, what do you prioritize here with your premium picks? So for the Broncos, are they prioritizing they need 5 players there? I sort of doubt that. I expect them to use that ammunition to move around whatever they ultimately need to do. They need to get a wide receiver. They absolutely need to get a wide receiver with one of these top picks, but it doesn't have to be at 15 necessarily.
And you can also go wide receiver in the second round. I mean, look at some of the guys that have exploded. Michael Thomas is a second-round pick. We look at first-round pick wide receivers, and I don't want to say doomsday to any of these super talented receivers in this draft, but there's a lot of bust wide receivers that are first-round picks. The best receiver that came out of last year's draft was A.J. Brown, and he wasn't a first-round pick coming out of Ole Miss. And I was at that pro day, and he blew the doors off of everybody. I think on day 2, after you see the way the chips fall in the first round on day 1, was where you can get creative about moving in that second round to get maybe that receiver that you have your eye on that's still sitting there available with the picks that you have.
The only problem I see with that, James, is you already have 3 second-round picks. You're going to have to pay faster, right? Because of Dalton Reisner, because of Drew Lock, and because of Cortland Sutton, who's going to get paid. All 3 of those guys should be able to get paid. So I'm there with you in terms of second-round wide receivers, but trading to the late first, getting that 5th-year option, giving you some flexibility with your salary cap might be on the books because you have so many second-rounders who are working out for you on your book.
Yeah.
Well, next week, we'll delve a little bit deeper into some of the defensive positions. But speaking of defense, we have the Broncos Hall of Fame safety Steve Atwater joined by Von Miller to share some very special news. Coming up after the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Broncos Beat. Let's now send it over to the Broncos Hall of Fame safety Steve Atwater, who is standing by with Super Bowl 50 MVP Von Miller.
What's up, man? How you doing?
How's it going, Steve? You good?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I can't complain.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out here at the crib.
You not going crazy over there?
No, it's this is what I do on a regular basis. Just chill here at the crib and mess around, DJ, and whatever. I like being around guys. I like being around my teammates, but I'm enjoying the time by myself.
Hey, man, how you feel about everything that's all the changes with the team and, a few coaches on the offensive side? How you feel about all of it?
Man, I'm excited, man. I'm excited, and a guy like me, it's easy to get me excited, but I'm super excited about the team that we got this year. Gerald Case, we're gonna get Chubb back. We got AJ Bouye. We're gonna have Bryce Callahan back. And you know what? I am super excited to see AJ Johnson in his second season starting.
Exactly.
It's his spot. It's his spot. It's locked up. Everybody knows it's gonna be his spot. He's gonna have his I'm gonna have a whole offseason to, really settle into that position. I'm excited to see what he's gonna do. We already know what Ty Davis is gonna do. Right. We got Justin Simmons. Can't forget him. Kareem Jackson. I'm excited about our team. And that's just saying the defense. We got Drew Lock, second year. Cortland Sutton is coming in strong. We all know what he can do. I'm excited about Noah Fant, though. I'm really excited about Noah Fant. I've said it since the first day I saw him, run routes out there. I said he got something. And I'm excited to see him in his second year. I'm excited to see this Melvin Gordon and this Phillip Lindsay tandem. I know it's gonna work. I know it's gonna be great. We got two good running backs. And I have been telling the guys like last season. I said we're gonna go and get one or two more dogs. That's all we need is one or two more dogs. And guys were like, what positions we gonna get? I was like, man, it don't matter. We got guys everywhere.
Yeah.
We need one or two more dogs. It don't matter if it's running back, tight end, receiver, defensive end. It don't matter. And that's what Elway when he got us one or two more dogs. We got a really competitive team this year.
How you feel about Chris Harris and D Wolf and
yeah, man. It took a long time. It took a couple of days to process it. I really haven't been able to develop the words or like the posts to put on Instagram to
right.
really thank those guys. And whenever I think about what do I say to those guys or what those guys already know, man. I spent so much time with those guys. I spent 9 years with Chris, 8 years with Derek Wolf.
Oh yeah, but I remember you on the outside, D Wolf on the inside doing those games.
I've spent so much time telling those guys that I love them and I appreciate them and I appreciate having the moments that we had in the locker room from Super Bowl 50 to the run that we had with Tim Tebow to Peyton first year to all of this stuff, man. Every single moment that I had, even with DT or Emmanuel or Chris or Wolf, every single moment that I had with those guys, I let them know how much I love them. I let them know how much I appreciate them. I always try to make it fun. And then whenever I get sad and, whenever I get, kind of emotional thinking about Chris and Wolf and all those guys leaving, I just reinforce it with the new relationships that I have.
Right.
I'm excited to work with Gerald Casey. I'm super excited to work with him. I'm super excited to see what DeMarcus Walker is going to do, what Draymond Jones is going to do. We got Shelby back, man. We got Shelby back.
Man, I was so happy when we saw Shelby back.
We got a good luck charm back, man. Shelby won us a lot of games, man, with his luck, man, and with his athletic ability as well.
Yeah, he said he got the best hands on the defense.
Hey, I'm happy to get him back, man. I'm happy to get him back. Besides this quarantine in the football world, everything is good for fun, man. I did a little prank on the guys for April Fool's.
Yeah, oh man, yeah, you got a whole bunch of that one. I knew that one too, though.
But I do it every year. I do it every year, man. I do it every year, and I just couldn't help myself this year, man. And I always get like the post. I always see somebody else do it on Instagram, then I take it and I put it on my page, and everybody it never fails. It got everybody going, and I had the backup message for the guys, let them know that it was all a joke.
Right. Congratulations, man. You were a unanimous selection for the NFL 2010's All-Decade team. Man, that's a huge honor. I know that means a lot to you as well. I was fortunate to get that in the 1990s, man. That was a great accolade for me, and you're so deserving of it, man. All the wonderful things you do in the community, leading the guys in the locker room. You're just a great example of what a prototype NFL player should be like, man. And congratulations, man. You guys,
I appreciate you guys, man. And I've had a lot of great examples. I really have had a lot of great examples. From Peyton Manning to Tim Tebow to DeMarcus Ware. And immediately when you said the all-decade team, I just went to DeMarcus. And DeMarcus got that. DeMarcus did a lot of great stuff, man. And as long as I'm doing the same stuff that DeMarcus did over his career, man, I'll be good, man. So I'm excited and I'm blessed. And honestly, this quarantine, man, it really don't got me down, man. I'm just chilling here at the crib, working out, and everything is good. But that.
Well, that's good, man. Well, hey, keep doing what you do, and congratulations again, Broncos country, man. So proud of you. We all love you for all the stuff you do on the field and also in the community, man. Don't ever change how you are.
Hey, appreciate you, Steve, man. I want to congratulate you too for a great career on and off the football field. Great Hall of Fame career, man, and I'm happy and I'm excited to see you get your due, man. It's dope.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Wait, you take care of yourself, man. Stay healthy. Keep being the leader you are, man. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate you, Steve. I'll see you guys soon.
See you soon. All right.
A big congratulations to Von Miller for being named to the All-Decade team. But that is all the time we have for this edition of Broncos Beat. But you guys know we will be right here next Monday at 6:30 on KTVD Channel 20. We'll see you then.